Hello everybody, and welcome back. Technical difficulties this morning. I started filming and then realized I had my camera in the setting to take a still picture, not to take a video. So, oh dear. I swear, I do know how to make videos. But here we go again. At least I only got about 10 minutes in before I realized my camera wasn't running. Spending all that time really talking to myself. There wasn't even a camera to pick it up. My goodness. Don't I feel silly? Oh, well, I guess I'm just glad I realized it. Not too late in the process. That would have sucked. So I'm kind of here just working my way left back to the right in a bit more of a vertical direction just because that's the way the colors are going. Make sure I grab the correct one. Yes. There's a lot of these two dark blues are quite similar. So yeah, because I don't work in rows, where I'm going to stitch next is not always clear. I had someone comment that they try to figure out where I'm going to go next. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes they don't. But yeah, basically they were correct in saying I picked a stitch that has 2 of the 4 sides done is generally what I pick next. But of course, there's often several to choose from along a diagonal, so it's not always clear exactly which one I'll do next. Oops, that's supposed to be part. There we go. So we're at 61.5% approximately. 61.57% to be exact. So 66 is 2/3, so we'll see how long it takes to get there. I'm guessing at least a month. We shall see. I think this thread might not be long enough to do all of these stitches. Yeah, yes, if I was remembering correctly. I think we'll just get a couple and then I'll start another thread to finish the rest of them. Yeah, I think I was trying to use some shorter pieces up here since, as you can see, there's nowhere to park it after I've done this little area here. So good place to use some more leftover bits. Yeah, this splash of purple and pink flower was actually a nice little break to do. Something a little different. Keeps the brain engaged. Yeah, I was browsing patterns on Heaven and Earth Designs last night, and I saw this gorgeous one that has a couple of wolves. And it's mostly in purples, because it's kind of like a twilight kind of lighting. It's so pretty, but I thought, oh, I think I would get bored using so few colors. I really like the look of those, but yeah, I like the variety of having lots of different colors. Not too much. I haven't tackled a max color yet because I think the confetti would really annoy me. Yeah, there was a post in the Heaven and Earth Facebook group where somebody said, I'm looking for a project with lots of confetti. I woke up today and chose violence. I mean, yes, they do look amazing, but I think the regular amount of colors is enough to keep me happy. Enough that I'm not bored, but not so many that I'm in so much confetti that I just don't enjoy it anymore. Yeah, I said looking between the regular and the max colors, I don't see a lot of difference. In fact, sometimes I kind of have to look at the caption and see which is which to be sure. My husband says he can see it, but he sees more shades of gray than me, so. But then he's kind of colorblind in other colors, so go figure. But I guess the shading is what he picks up on. Yeah, maybe one day, but I have, like 8 patterns queued up. None of them are max color, so maybe I'll tackle one day, but oh, pardon me. For the moment, I have no plans to. Yeah, I'm having about 90 envelopes in my pulled to use on a single project is about enough. I think if I had more envelopes than that, trying to stuff them into that holder that I keep them in, it probably would be too much. We'll see. I do have one of my next ones coming up that I got from Etsy is a Majora's Mask pattern. And that one has more, about 120 colors. So more than I've ever used in a pattern before. I think the most I ever used was about 93 or something. So we'll see. A lot of them are just 1 or 2 stitches of a color though. 3, 1, 2. So I guess I won't have that many colors pulled at a time for quite a while. Because, you know, if there's only 3 or 4 stitches of a color, I'll be able to pack it away fairly early on, I should hope. I guess it depends where they appear in the pattern. So I've always said I keep 8 to 10 needles on threads, but lately I've been using more. And it seems to be okay. I guess I've had more practice at it. Got more like 20 of them. And so far, as long as it's sort of spread out a bit across the diagonal and not all in one place, it seems to be working for me. So that's even less rethreading that I have to do. So that's nice. Yeah, I've seen people do parking like this. I believe Boss Daughter does hers with just 1 needle. And that is a lot of threading. I mean, I have a fair amount myself, but that is even more than I like to do. So, yeah, this section ends at row 300, and we have, I believe, 410. So that'll be 2 more passes because I do 60 in one pass, although the second one won't be as many. It'll be 50 instead of 60. So it'll go slightly faster, I should imagine. Oh. Yeah. For once, I got the knot on the top. 99% of the time, I swear it's on the bottom. it's more difficult to remove. Or maybe it just seems like that because I notice those more because they're more trouble. So they stick in my head more. Wait, not doing well with the double taps today. I keep on highlighting when I mean to park. Yeah, so browsing, heaven and earth designs, and added like a dozen to my wish list, but I really don't need to be buying more patterns. I know that. Oh, goodness. That did not work. I've said often collecting patterns and actually making them are different hobbies. You know, collecting craft supplies. Oh gosh, it came up in my memories during the 2020 lockdown and saying, you know, crafters, oh, I get all this time to do crafts, and people, well, what will you do when you run out of craft supplies? And then, you know, me laughing, you don't know many crafters, do you? Yeah. We generally have way more supplies than we can ever use. And, you know, if not, there was always online shopping, so. Yeah, actually, I saw one saying they have ADHD swap groups because, you know, we often, you hyperfixate on a new hobby, you buy all the stuff you need to make it, and then it just kind of fizzles out and you're left with all this, these supplies. And they said, you know, they have a swap group so that people can swap with someone else and not have to buy all new stuff. And somebody said, yeah, but for one thing, I plan to get back to it. And for another, you know, half of the fun is the buying it, right? It appeals to the magpie brain. It says, ooh, collect all the shiny things. I said, yes, that and sorting it out, organizing it. I love that part of it too. I said, sometimes when I'm in a reading slump and I can't seem to find the right read, I'll go and just rearrange my books. That gives me a little happy feeling. Although I don't read paper books so much anymore. I've been spoiled by being able to, you know, make the font bigger and also not having to physically hold a book open anymore. You know, I can just prop my Kindle up. Don't have to hold it. Yeah, I kind of always said I was never going to go to ebooks, but never say never. I do have a few books that I have as print books and then later got them as free on Kindle, but I can't get myself to get rid of the print books because, well, they're just more permanent, right? And I'm always thinking, what if something happens to the cloud or the server and you lose all your books? These were books that I really liked enough to keep, and yeah, if I lost them because of some you know, server crash or hack or something, I'd be really devastated that I got rid of my physical copies. Actually, I think, yeah, that's probably not enough to do all those. I'm going to get a full-length piece. Oh, I remember. This piece that I got somehow got a big knot in it. The full 6-thread piece that I cut off the skin came, got a knot in it that I couldn't undo, and I had to cut it into 2/3 and 1/3. So yeah, that was kind of irritating. I was left with a lot of shorter threads than I like to work with. Oh well, what you gonna do? Not gonna throw away a bunch of perfectly usable thread, even if it is shorter than I like. Oh, goodness. Oh, there we go. It was catching another of my parked threads there and trying to pull it through that hole, which we do not want to happen. So yeah, I have the house to myself for a while. After kiddo had a whole week off school. It'll be the end of the year before we know it, of the school year. Our school year here ends in June. I know, I think in the US it's different. Because we start September, we end June. Because of the different growing seasons. Because of course, yeah, that's the whole reason we have summer break was back in the old days, they needed kids to bring in the harvest, right? So they were off school to do that, and it's just sort of stuck, even though most of us don't have farms anymore. I remember when I was in high school, our school district talked about doing the multi-track, where you have school year round, but you have more breaks. They're more split up through the year. So you'll go to school for like 4 weeks and get 2 weeks off or something like that, or 3 weeks and get a week off continuously throughout the year. But yeah, it was voted down. Well, one big reason was because they couldn't guarantee that families would have kids in the same track. So, if, you know, that would really mess up trying to take any family vacations or whatever, or for childcare for some people. Because if you have, you know, 3 kids are in and 1 is off, and then 1 is in while the 3 are off, that's really going to mess up your schedule. Okay, I have 2 threads here. One of them will be ended off soon. Okay, so they're both about the same length. It doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to end this one. I guess there's benefits too. I do know usually by the end of the summer break, my son is getting a bit antsy. He's ready to go back, see his friends. 6 weeks is about just right. When it goes to 8 or even 9, it's a bit much. Humans don't really like change, hey? I mean, just like we still keep with the daylight saving time, even though it's been proven doesn't save any energy, and it messes things up. There's more accidents, especially when we spring ahead, because people are driving working with machinery while they're tired, and it messes up medication schedules. You know, for some people, the timing of their medication is extremely important. You know, for some people, it's just take it once a day. But for some people, it's, you know, you have to take this medication, you know, 3 times a day, every 8 hours or something. And so, yeah, when you mess with the clock, that can really mess with that scheduling. And oh my gosh, there was someone saying that a extra hour of sunlight isn't good for the plants. It's like there isn't actually extra sunlight. It's just we changed the clock so that we're supposed to be like awake and active for when there's more light versus when there isn't. Oh my gosh. Common sense sometimes isn't as common as we'd like, right? Yeah, I don't like it because in the winter then it means the sun goes down before you even make dinner, which is really depressing. And you know, you're hungry earlier, and yeah, so you get, you know, that one extra hour of sleep for the one night, but then it just messes everything up. So for me, it's not worth it. And of course, yeah, the springing ahead I really hate. Oh, it takes me a good, you know, 6 weeks to really adjust to the getting up earlier. Ugh. I kind of feel like just when I've gotten used to it, we're switching things up again. So yeah, but they had a vote on it recently where I live, and it was voted down by the narrowest of margins, but unfortunately, we are still doing it. I think I'm going to be stuck with it forever. Maybe it's not me that's the double tap problem. Maybe it's time to reboot my tablet soon. Probably. I haven't done that in a while. Okay, am I looking in the right spot? Oh. Oh, what did I do? I think I did something incorrect here. Yeah. Oh, yes, I did. I grabbed the wrong thread. I grabbed this one. Yep. Okay, well, fortunately, I know what I did. So many blues here. And I wasn't paying attention to my grid lines. Okay, so let me take a look here. Where was it? Ah, here it is. Okay, so yes, I did it here where it was parked. I wonder if any of you noticed that. We're saying, no, you're doing it wrong. Yeah, I saw one that said the closest you'll get to ever feeling like a ghost is when you know some obscure piece of trivia. You're listening to a podcast and you know some obscure piece of trivia that they're trying to remember, and you can, but of course they can't hear you. I've done that before. Yeah, I'm yelling it at them, but of course they can't hear me. Okay, so now I have the correct color. I'll blame it on this was the first morning I had to get back up at the regular time instead of being able to sleep in, so we'll blame it on that. Yes, because then I went to grab this thread here, and there was the one beside it was still parked and not stitched with, so then I knew I had messed something up. One nice thing with the parking is I'd catch that pretty soon, generally, because of that. Because I'm not closing stuff in. So if that stitch was marked as done, but it wasn't done, I knew I made a mistake. Okay. Got like I said, a lot of blues here. So. There, I went down because I wanted to be able to do these two and then park it. 38, 48. Yeah, this morning was checking so carefully to make sure kiddo had everything he needed for school, but the gym bag still got forgotten, so I had to run that out to him. Oh dear. I'm so careful to make sure. Oh yeah, computer was charged, and he had his headphones, and he has water bottle, because that's often forgotten. Because yeah, they closed off the water fountains due to the COVID, and I don't think they have water filling stations where you can refill water bottles, but you can't, you know, drink out of them like you could with a water fountain. So yeah, you need to remember to have a water bottle so you can actually drink stuff. Yeah, I like to use water bottles myself. I used to use glasses, but I was always knocking them over and spilling them and breaking them. We're back to a lot of confetti here. Yeah, as I've said before, I find the getting new strands and attaching them is what takes the most time with this method. Once you actually have them attached and parked, it's not so bad. That one's just looking a little weird. There. Nice and smooth again. There. So I did those because now I can do all three of those and end that thread. Okay, and another one I can end off too. Just making sure there wasn't a snarl on the other side. Yes, if there is, you definitely want to fix that before you end off your thread. A lot harder to fix it after. It's doable, but often involves ripping back a fair bit until you can get a tail long enough to secure it, and then starting another piece. And yeah, ounce of prevention, right? Okay, for once, no really short bits. Oh, there was one parked there. I don't know why. It's even marked that I parked it. I don't know why. For some reason, I thought there wasn't. My gosh. Hey. My brain is not firing on all cylinders this this morning. Silly me. Okay, that one is not threaded, so I'm just going to skip it. And I'll do it on the next diagonal. It was right on the edge, so if it was still threaded, I would have done a couple and parked it, but I'm not going to thread it just for that. I would still have to unthread it for that last third stitch that it would be parked in. So when I'm doing the next section, I'll do those two, park it and leave it threaded, and then do it when I get to it. So that's one less threading I have to do. Okay. Did not want to come out. Yeah, there'll be a couple here I can finish off and have less threads hanging. So as you can see here, I'm kind of leaving it undone and not quite diagonal, just because the way the colors worked out. So yeah, the diagonal's just a rough guide for me. And again, I'm still not doing anything out of order. I'm still doing stuff that's to the left and above before doing stuff that's below and to the right. So that's why sometimes I end up with more column style stitching instead of diagonal, because that's just the way the colors happen to flow across the piece. Let's try that again. Come on. You can do it. There we go. A little less confetti here. Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with confetti. I love the detail that it gives, but I don't like stitching it. I think a lot of people will say the same. But then I don't like huge blocks of the same color sometimes too. I save those for when I'm too tired to pay attention. But I still want to stitch when I need a mindless section to do. Okay, let me just see what else I got there. Okay, I'm going to just take a look at the other thread up here. Is it enough to do all those? Yeah, okay, so I'm not going to bother parking this one back up, I think. Actually, no, I lied. I'm going to park it to do that one that's sort of by itself to the left, because I would probably need another thread there anyway if I'm going to follow my normal way of stitching. Yeah. So 1, 2, and 3. If I decide later I don't want that one, I can always just unpark it and end it off. I'd rather do that than cut it and then realize, oh, I wish I'd left that attached. Again, I could have left this one for the next section because it's really past that line, but it is already threaded, so I'm just gonna do it since it won't be closing anything in to do it now. Okay. There, that way. Okay, so that one, and those two. I realize I'm kind of heading into the other diagonal, the next diagonal here, but oh well. Like I've said before, they're just a rough guide. I stitch wherever the colors take me and my mood takes me. Not always, oops, I want it to go the other way, yeah, because I want it to be able to park in the upper right. That's the only real hard and fast rule of mine, is always park in the same spot. That way I don't get mixed up. Okay. That actually works out well. This piece will be just enough for those two stitches that are sort of by themselves. And then a new thread will be for the others that are to the left of those. Okay, I'm gonna do those as well, because then, yeah, I can do an extra one of the empty circle stitch there before parking again. So I do that one, and then park it. So yeah, I had quite a few needles on threads, but I didn't tangle any of them. At least not this session. So yeah, I guess I don't have to limit myself to only 8 to 10 anymore. So that's cool. Sleeves on this sweater never want to stay pushed up. Ugh, kind of annoys me, but this sweater's so comfortable that, yeah. I'm gonna wear it till it falls apart, I think. Perfect. Another one I can get parked out of this section and out of my way. So yeah, I'm really working into the next diagonal down here, but that's fine. Just kind of made sense, and the needles were already threaded, so why not? I mean, eventually the piece is going to be squared off anyway. It won't always be diagonal, right? So, yeah. And again, I can stitch this one and probably park it out of my way. There's a lot of this color around here, so even if I have multiple threads, they'll all get used up anyway. Yeah, there's still over 6,900 stitches of this color left in the design, so got a ways to go. Oh, I did it again. Yeah, I want to go back this way so I can park it correctly. That There's one rule I never break. Yeah, when I first started trying this, I parked some in the lower left, and it really mixed me up. Plus the fact that meant sometimes you could end up with two threads parked in the same hole because one was for going up and one was for going down. And yeah, it just made things extremely confusing. So I broke myself of that habit, and now I always park in the same way. Those are really the only two rules, is that always park in the same spot and always have your crosses, the top of your crosses going in the same direction. Except I say that, but I've seen where some people have actually done it on purpose. They did the background going one way and the design going the other way to give it a different texture. So yeah, I mean, it's your project, right? Okay, good. Another one I can end. Yeah, nothing below close enough to park it, so end it. Right, and then I said I was going to start a new thread here. 36. Right, because the other one was only not long enough for those two. What I'm actually going to do is do all this. Okay, if this was super short, I would have parked it below to do those three, but it's a little longer, so I'm actually going to park it over to the right a bit because it's long enough to do sort of some more stitches there. So yeah, the length of the thread definitely has one of the biggest influences on what I decide to do. I'm just going to use these up. This way I'm not doing anything out of order here. I'm just going to use up this last bit of thread before I end it off. So yeah, you can see I went a bit more vertical here, but it just kind of made sense to me to do that, so I did. All right. There, okay. So that's about all I can do in that diagonal there without going back to the top. Otherwise, I'll be doing stuff out of order. So I think that is a good place to stop for the day. And thank you so much for joining me once again. And I hope to see you here again. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.